origins of Nazism. Let's move on to the dark occult origins of communism. And we're going to get really deep into this here. And again, I guarantee it will be the same thing where most people will not know any of these people or groups, save perhaps one. So let's start with Karl Marx, which is where most people think that communism starts with, and I'm going to show you it does not start with him. It goes back hundreds of years before Marx, certainly at least an entire century before his birth. Okay? Karl Marx was a German-born ideologue, political theorist, and revolutionary socialist. His best-known works are the 1848 pamphlet, The Communist Manifesto, co-authored with Friedrich Engels, and the 3-volume Das Kapital, or Capital, an analysis of capitalism which espouses Marx's theory of historical materialism. Once again, one of the underlying ideologies of the occult, one of the underlying ideologies of cults and Satanism. Marx's ideas and theories and their subsequent development, collectively known as Marxism, have exerted enormous influence on modern intellectual, economic, and political history, perhaps more than any other figure in human history, sadly. Marx was significantly influenced by the philosophy of George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, who we've already talked about via the Hegelian dialectic, what I call polarization techniques, polarization dialectics, to steer society into a certain direction by giving them a series of false choices that all take them to the same place. And he embraced Hegelianism in his youth. While in Paris in 1844, Marx met Friedrich Engels, a lifelong friend and collaborator. After moving to Brussels in 1845, Marx and Engels were both active in the international political party known as the Communist League. A lot more on that a little bit later. In 1848, they wrote the Communist Manifesto, a political pamphlet which expressed their political and economic ideas and ended with a call for a workers' revolution. Marx's critical theories about society, economics, and politics hold that human societies develop through class conflict. In the capitalist mode of production, this manifests itself in the conflict between the ruling classes, or bourgeoisie, that control the means of production, and the working classes, called the proletariat, that enable these means by selling their labor power in return for wages. Employing a critical approach known as historical materialism, Marx predicted that the tensions produced by capitalism would lead to its self-destruction and replacement by a new system known as the socialist mode of production. And this is what people in the socialist community refer to as common or shared ownership, of which there is no such thing in nature. To own something means someone maintains the exclusive right over it. That's why people are not property, because no one can have an exclusive right over another human being. And there's no such thing as shared ownership, truly, not in nature. So he's inventing a construct that doesn't exist and try to apply it to all of humanity. This socialist mode of production would lead to a workers' conquest of political power and eventually the establishment of a classless communist society. Marx argued that the working class should carry out organized revolutionary action to topple capitalism and bring about his envisaged socio-economic emancipation. Marxism has exerted major influence on socialist thought and political movements, and during the 20th century, revolutionary governments identifying as Marxist took power in many countries and established socialist states, including the Soviet Union and the People's Republic of China, more on later. A number of theoretical variants, such as Leninism, Trotskyism, and Maoism, have also been developed. Marx was expelled from Paris, Belgium, and Germany over the course of his life for his revolutionary ideas. He finally settled in London in 1849. You're going to see this historical pattern over and over, especially with communism. moving out of other countries of Europe and into London, a power center for social engineering, and you'll see why. Marx was expelled. He was expelled and finally settled in London in 1849, where he wrote Das Kapital. In 1864, Marx helped found the International Working Men's Association, also called First International, through which he sought to spread the communist ideology and to fight the influence of so-called anarchists of his time, led by Mikhail Bakunin. Marx died in March of 1883. While not publicly known as an occultist himself, the dark side of Marx has been well documented. He was known amongst his contemporaries for his hatred of humanity as a species, and he often espoused a desire to promote human destruction. Marx expressed hatred for entire cultures and was very racist. He hated Jews, Germans, the English, and more. He was a virulent racist and frequently made hateful remarks about blacks and other minorities in his writings. While Marxists have claimed that Marx was an atheist, it is well known by those who have studied his mindset and his writings that he both acknowledged and despised the existence of God, and in his own words, expressed the desire to, quote, chase God from heaven. Marx once stated, quote, "I wish to avenge myself against the one who rules above." While he never personally described his ideology as Satanism, and no true occultist, dark occultist would, Marx's personal belief system was a perfect example of what I, in my work, refer to as de facto Satanism. A great book on the topic of Marx's ideology when it came to the hatred of human beings, the human species, and of God, is the book Marx and Satan by Richard Wurmbrand. Highly recommended. Here you see Marx doing the symbol of the hidden hand, the gesture of the hidden hand as it is known. He's basically telling you the forces that I move with and that move me are hidden, are occulted. The hand that guides the chess pieces is hidden inside his coat jacket. A lot of dark occultists did this gesture. It was very popular in Freemasonry. It was very popular in, as we're going to talk about a little bit later today, the Bavarian Order of the Illuminati as well. But while Marx's ideology was what I call a de facto Satanist, I would go far beyond that term in what I would describe him as. And what I would truly describe Marx as is this. Karl Marx was an antichrist. Now, I want this fully understood connotatively in my definition of the term. This is not a religious term, okay? What Christian religionists view as the Antichrist is not what I am talking about here. So let me paint the definition of how I'm using the term, okay? My personal concept of